I was humiliated. My girlfriend left me and my family abandoned me, but today I am a successful YouTuber. Hi, I'm Jose, a lower-class kid who always had a dream. No, it wasn't about money or fame. My dream was to be a YouTuber. Since I was little, I always watched videos from my favorite creators and thought, I can do this too. But like many people in my situation, life isn't always as easy as it's imagined in videos on the internet. I grew up in a neighborhood where opportunities were conspicuous by their absence. My family, my mother and my sister Damaris, didn't have much. Sometimes we barely made ends meet, and food was always something that needed to be taken care of. But that never stopped me. I had something that others couldn't see, an unstoppable passion for creating content. It all started when, at 19, I decided to record my first video. I used my mobile phone, which wasn't even the newest, and placed it on a pile of books, hoping it would give me a better view. The content, well, wasn't anything special. Video games, a couple of bad jokes, and some ideas I saw on the internet. I uploaded it to YouTube without much expectation, just hoping that someone somewhere would see it. The answer was nothing. No likes, no comments, absolutely nothing. But that didn't stop me. I decided to do it again, and then again, and again. I was determined to keep going, even though everyone around me told me it was a waste of time. My girlfriend, Catalina, who was always supportive at the beginning, started to change her attitude. At first, she encouraged me to keep creating content, telling me that I just needed a little luck. But little by little, things started to change. The reviews started to come faster than the likes, and I felt more and more pressure. One day, Catalina looked at me with that cold look, the same look I had never seen in her, and said, Jose, don't you see that this is not going to work? What are you doing with your life? You are wasting your time. You have no future in this. Those words hit me like a bucket of cold water. Catalina had always been my support person, but now she was no longer believing in me. It was like something inside me had broken. My world seemed to be falling apart, and just when I needed her the most, she left me. She left with the excuse that she needed someone who was more realistic. My friends, who had previously joked about my videos, started making fun of me. Are you still doing that, Jose? They would say, laughing and pointing at my cheap phone. I felt more alone than ever. My mother was busy with work, and my sister Damaris, who was only 12 years old, was the only one who still believed in me. She always told me, Jose, don't give up. I know you'll make it. I'll see you on TV one day. Her words were the only ones that kept me going. One day, while I was recording a new video in my bedroom, the same room where I used to have to ask my mother's permission to use the phone, Damaris walked in unannounced. She stared for a few seconds and then approached with her typical enthusiasm. Jose, don't let them make you feel bad. I support you. You are my hero. She looked at me with those hopeful eyes, and something inside me lit up. In that moment, I realized that it didn't matter how many times I fell. It didn't matter how many people told me I couldn't. What mattered was that someone, even if it was my little sister, still believed in me. She didn't see a loser, but a brother who had a dream. I decided not to give up. My videos were still bad, my equipment was still poor, but something was changing. I started studying more about editing, watching YouTube tutorials, researching how to improve my content. Everything I couldn't afford, I learned for free. My work, my effort, and the hours I spent recording and editing started to make some sense. Little by little, people started to notice my videos. Some left me positive comments, others just watched my videos for a couple of seconds. But I didn't care. I knew I was closer. Damaris, at 12 years old, was still by my side. In fact, she started being part of my videos. She helped me record, gave me ideas, gave me that spark that I was missing. Her little tips became an essential part of my content. Finally, after months of tireless work, one day the miracle happened. A video of mine went viral. Yes, something as simple as a gameplay of a trendy video game with my own comments, something simple. The number of views began to rise like never before. I received a message from YouTube telling me that my channel had met the requirements to be monetized. Couldn't believe it. After so many years of struggle, of ridicule, of feeling like a failure, I had achieved something. But like everything in life, the road is never easy. Although the positive comments started to arrive, the negative ones did too. But they didn't hurt me as much anymore. I didn't care what other people thought anymore. What mattered to me was that I had finally achieved my dream. And best of all, my sister Damaris was there, by my side, celebrating. The same girl who never stopped believing in me, who helped me to keep going, to stay strong. But just as my life was beginning to change, Catalina appeared again. And what happened next? Well, that's another chapter. After my channel started to take off, things started to change. People started to see me differently, though not everyone. My mother, who was always busy working, saw what was going on, and although she showed some pride at first, she soon began to doubt. Jose, do you think this is what you really want to do with your life? What if this is all just a fad? What if one day you you run out of followers? What are you going to do then? Her concern was understandable, but it hurt me. I felt like I had finally found something that made me happy, something that allowed me to be myself. And while Damaris was always there to encourage me, my mother was starting to be a voice of doubt that made me question my own achievements. It was at this point that the story of Catalina, my ex-girlfriend, came into play again. After months of not hearing from her, one day I received a Facebook message. It was written with a mix of regret and desperation. "Jose, can I talk to you? I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened." At first, I didn't want to even read it. I remembered her face when she left me, the way she told me I was a loser, that I couldn't keep living with someone who had no future. But something in her message made me doubt. What if everything she was saying now was true? What if, in the end, I wasn't the same boy she had left behind? Nevertheless, I decided to answer. I wanted to know why he was looking for me. When I finally agreed to talk to her, she said something that left me speechless. "I've been watching your videos, Jose. I'm so sorry. When I left you, I didn't know what I was doing. I see what you've accomplished, and honestly, I always knew you had something special. I've been following you for months now, and I've realized how stupid I was." Catalina's words, full of regret, were like a stab. I couldn't help but think of everything that had happened, how she left me at the worst time of my life, when I needed her the most. But the most painful thing wasn't that she was looking for me now that things were looking up for me. The most painful thing was that she realized it too late. "I don't know if forgiveness is what I'm looking for right now, Jose," she continued, "but I want you to know that I'm truly sorry. If you want, we can try again." Her proposal left me completely baffled. I didn't know what to do. On the one hand, I felt I had a right to give her a chance, after everything we'd been through. But on the other hand, I remembered everything that happened and how it made me feel. I couldn't just forget the words of contempt she threw at me at the time, or the pain she caused by leaving when I needed her the most. Couldn't sleep that night. Damaris noticed it the next day and asked me if everything was okay. I told her about Catalina and she stared at me. "Jose," she said to me with a serious look, "do you really think she regrets what she did, or is she doing it because she now sees that you are successful? If she really loved you, she would never have left you. It's not your problem anymore. What matters now is that you have achieved what you wanted. If she is not willing to accept that, then she does not deserve you." My sister's words echoed in my mind. It was so true. Catalina didn't love me enough to stay when everything seemed lost. And now, when things were better, she sought me out, as if the time and pain she caused me didn't matter. I decided not to answer him anymore. Weeks passed, and my channel continued to grow. It had reached numbers I never imagined. I started receiving invitations from brands, collaborating with other creators, and finally, I felt like I was achieving the recognition I so desired. But I still couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. The real change wasn't the money or the followers. What really changed was the way I looked at things. I realized that it wasn't about being successful to prove something to someone, but about doing it for myself. And that realization was what finally set me free. And while all this was happening, one day I received an unexpected message. It was from Catalina. "Jose, don't hate me. I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry. I've seen your achievements, and the truth is, I let you go too late. I was wrong." That message was the last time I heard from her. After that, I didn't care anymore. She was gone, and now, even if I tried to get back, I didn't need her anymore. I had found my own path, one that didn't require her approval or anyone else. Damaris, my sister, became my main source of support. She was the one who always believed in me when no one else did. And to her, my little sister who kept me going when the world seemed to be against me, is the one I owe everything. Without her, I wouldn't have made it this far. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if things had been different, if Catalina had never left me, if my family had been more understanding. But in the end, I realized that life has its own paths and that everything that happened was what made me who I am today. And now, looking back, I can say with certainty that although it was a path full of pain and sacrifice, it was also the one that led me to find my true strength. The success of my channel was something I didn't expect, but at the same time, I craved it with all my might. As things started to look up, I started to feel a strange pressure on my shoulders. It wasn't just about my dreams anymore, but about people's expectations of me. The weight of digital fame started to affect me in ways I didn't understand. Every time I uploaded a video, I felt watched, criticized. Social media became a minefield. For every supportive comment, there were 10 criticisms criticisms and mockery. But the worst thing of all wasn't the external pressure. It was the growing distance between me and my mother. She, who had been so worried about my future at the beginning, seemed more distant than ever now. She worried about what might happen if the world of YouTube suddenly disappeared. "Jose, what are you going to do when this is all over? What if you can't make a living from this anymore? You need to have a plan B, a real job." Her concern, though it came from a place of love, frustrated me. Gone was the young dreamer who had asked for her support in the beginning. Now she saw only a man who, according to her, was losing his way. And the worst thing was that I couldn't convince her otherwise. Nothing I said or did seemed to be enough. That's when I felt more alone than ever. One night, after an argument with my mother, I realized that Catalina had stopped texting me. She seemed to have faded away again, only now I didn't care. Or at least that's what I tried to convince myself. However, a part of me still felt an open wound. After everything I had been through, the last thing I expected was to fall into the trap of false promises again. But one message changed everything. This time it wasn't from Catalina, but from an old friend from college. Andres, a guy with whom I shared many of my aspirations in those days, wrote to me. His message read, "Jose, I know we've lost touch, but I have something that might interest you. I'm working on a great opportunity for content creators like you. I know you've been through a lot of hardships, but I think this could be a turning point for you." My mind started to run in circles. I thought about what such an opportunity could mean. My first impulse was to investigate, but the feeling that it could all be just another missed opportunity made me hesitate. However, Andres was one of the few people who had believed in me, even when no one else did. I decided to give him a chance. I agreed to meet him. What I discovered that night changed my perspective completely. Not only did Andres offer me a collaboration, he also introduced me to a group of investors interested in funding projects by emerging YouTubers. The amount of money involved was enough to change my life, but what struck me more was the vision of these investors. They believed in me, not just in my numbers, but in what I stood for as a person. They offered me a contract that would guarantee the production of high-quality content, promotion, and most importantly, financial stability. However, there was one clause that baffled me. The clause said that I had to abandon my roots, change my style to suit a wider audience, modify my content to do what would sell. And that made me question everything I had done up until then. That night, as I was thinking about the offer, I received another text. This time it was from Damaris, my little sister. "Jose, I saw what they offered you, but I want you to think carefully before you accept. If you are happy with what you do, don't change just for money. Don't let success make you lose sight of what really matters to you." Damaris's words hit me hard. She had seen all the effort, sacrifice, and pain I had gone through, but at the same time, she saw what I was about to lose. This success, this new world, could change me forever, and I didn't know if I was ready for that. The next morning, I decided to talk to my mother. I was tired of feeling unsupported, but I also understood her concern. I told her about the offer and what I felt in my heart. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't read at first, but then she said something that made me think deeply. "Jose, when I saw you pursue this dream, I didn't care if you failed or if you won. What mattered to me was that you tried. Now that you've come this far, I don't want you to change just for money. But if you decide to follow this path, make sure you do it for yourself, not for what others expect of you." That conversation with my mother changed something inside me. It was no longer about meeting other people's expectations. It was no longer about proving to Catalina that I was wrong or proving to anyone that I was capable. It was about being true to myself, about following my dream without losing my essence. Ultimately, I turned down the investor's offer. I decided to follow my own path, one that, although uncertain, was the one that made me feel most fulfilled. However, what he didn't know was that the real challenge was yet to come. The weeks after I turned down the investor's offer were the hardest of my life. My channel's numbers started to decline. At first, everything looked promising, but soon the pressure started to mount. The negative comments grew, sponsors walked away, and what hurt me the most, people started to question my decision to not accept the money. My videos were no longer generating the same impact as before. People were used to seeing easy-to-consume content, something that entertained them without going into too much depth, and I had refused to fall into that kind of dynamic. Even though I knew my decision was the right one, the fear of losing everything I had worked so hard for kept me up at night. Catalina, after a long silence, wrote to me. This time they weren't sweet words or empty promises. Her message was full of reproaches, of frustration. "I told you that you weren't going to make it, Jose. Now you see? Now no one supports you. What's the point of having dreams if you can't even support yourself? I can't be with someone who lives in fantasies anymore." Reading those words was like a stab in the chest. Every part of me wanted to react, to scream, to defend myself, but something inside me told me that but it was too late to save that relationship. Catalina had never understood the sacrifice that following a dream entailed. It was always easier for her to complain about what she didn't have than to appreciate what I was trying to build. One night, while I was editing another video, not knowing if it would be my last, I got a call. It was Damaris. "Jose, I know things aren't going well, but you have to know that you're not alone. I'll always be here, supporting you, even if the world turns its back on you." Her words were a balm for my soul, but they couldn't soothe the weight I felt in my heart. Through it all, she was still the only person who truly saw me, who understood what I was going through. Her unconditional support made me feel that perhaps it was worth continuing to fight. But then, something unexpected happened. I received a private message from an anonymous follower on social media. The message read as follows: "I've been following your channel for a long time. I've seen your growth and I've seen how you've stayed true to your principles, even when everything has gone wrong. I want to offer you a chance. If you accept, I'll make you a contract with conditions that won't commit you, but will help you grow. I don't want you to change who you are. I just want you to keep being you." I didn't know what to think. This message was completely different from anything I had ever received before. But what struck me most was the signature at the end. "I am someone who believes in what you do, Jose. I am waiting for you." Curiosity consumed me. Who was behind that message? And how could I trust such an ambiguous offer? I decided to investigate, but I couldn't find anything about that person. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. The fear of falling into another trap paralyzed me, but the hope that this could be my chance drove me to investigate further. What I didn't know at the time was that this new offer would lead me to a situation that would change my life forever. After much thought, I decided to accept the offer. I didn't know who was behind that message, but I felt that I couldn't pass up such a mysterious opportunity. I contacted the person and was offered a meeting at a cafe in a quiet part of the city. I arrived nervously, not knowing what to expect, and when I saw the person waiting for me, I froze. It was Catherine. Couldn't believe it. After everything that had happened, she was the person behind the offer. But not only that, her face didn't reflect anger or frustration. There was something different about her. When she saw me, she stood up from her seat and motioned for me to sit down. "Jose, I know this may sound weird, but listen, it wasn't right, I know. I got carried away by my own fears and I never understood what all this meant to you. I've been watching and I saw how every single one of your efforts fell apart because you didn't take the opportunity that was offered to you before. But now that I see it, the problem wasn't what you did, but how you did it. And I was the one who pushed you to give up on what made you happy." Catalina's words struck me, but it wasn't just the apology that surprised me, but the offer she made me afterwards. "I want you to be yourself, Jose, and I'm willing to help you achieve that. I've been working behind the scenes with some contacts, and I've managed to get your channel promoted worldwide. But this is your last attempt. If you reject it, I promise there won't be another one." I was in shock. Catalina, the same person who had left me when I needed her the most, was now offering me an opportunity that many would have dreamed of receiving. Could I trust her again? Doubt was gnawing at me, but in the end, I knew this wasn't just a matter of love or past relationships. It was my life. I had to make a decision. Without thinking twice, I accepted his help, and everything changed. Over the next few months, my channel grew beyond what I could have ever imagined. Videos that once barely reached a few thousand views were now reaching millions. Sponsors who had previously ignored me now wanted to work with me. And best of all, my sister Damaris, who had always been by my side, saw my efforts finally pay off. She not only celebrated my successes, but also helped me stay calm and stay true to what I truly stood for. Catalina, for her part, kept her promise. Although the relationship with her was never the same, we found ourselves in a different place, a place where friendship and respect prevailed over everything else. Finally, a year later, I received a letter from the same investors who had offered me to change my style in the past. This time, it was not an offer of easy money. It was a recognition of everything I had achieved on my own, without giving up, without giving in to the pressures of the outside world. They offered me a contract, but this time the conditions were clear. They wanted me to remain the same Jose who had started from scratch. That day, looking at my channel full of followers and remembering all the times I had fallen and gotten back up, I knew I had made it. Not only had I achieved my dream, but I had done it my way. I never let circumstances or people define who I was. And in the end, that was the real victory.